Sorry, I wanted to ask for the I wanted to invite some members of my team, so I wanted to ask for the link.
Yes, I'll share that shortly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. I know we just got started, we just joined, but it's good to see all of you, to meet all of you here. I mean, it's another year, and I'll just start by saying Happy New Year. Please post on the chat where you're joining us from. That's super important. It's like what we do here every time. And as a way of introducing myself, my name is Nelson Garissa. I'm originally from Kenya, but I'm based out of Dubai, and I've been with PMI for slightly over 6 years, close to 7 years now. And besides this, I help develop communities, project management communities in the region, in the Sub-Saharan Africa region to be precise, and just to help also candidates be able to pass their PMP exams by partnering with very qualified authorized trainers, which we have one today here. Yeah, so please post on the chat where you're from, and welcome to this new year. If you've been part of these sessions before, you know that they're very engaging. You know that they are very engaging, and we encourage you to chat, connect with each other on the chat, and be able to just exchange. In as much as we are trying to get certified, we also want to make connections afterwards. Okay. The other thing that I'll ask you to do on the chat is to just mention when you're sitting for your PMP exam. If you haven't joined our WhatsApp group as well, we'll be posting the link to that WhatsApp group where we most of the candidates that are there exchange ideas, be able to post questions that you have, and be able to get assistance as well. Okay. So I won't take much of your time. But before that, just one last thing that I would like to mention. The PMP is changing in July this month, if you're not aware. So with that in mind, we highly encourage you, if you haven't set your exam date yet, please do so. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, it doesn't have to be a week, but set and do it as soon as you can, so that when the exam changes, you don't have to go through the content again. It's going to be a substantial change, and a few new things changed, added as well, and as well as the number of questions. But with that, I would like to pass it on to Susan, who is our trainer for today, who is going to go through the content for today. And this is about project success. We're going to talk about conflict, collaboration, and team performance. She's an authorized trainer based out of Nigeria, and she's the CEO and founder of managing partner, of the organization. She will tell us more about herself and get into the content as well. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Hi, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're joining from. I hope we're having a good day. I see some persons are writing the PMP in a couple of days. That's very inspiring. I saw someone is writing in 2 days. So you're very ready. Please don't have crying emojis. I'm sure that you're already ready. And you've been taking a lot of practice exams. By this time, the only thing I can tell you to do is take just one more practice exams and then rest. Don't be in a hurry, don't panic, don't rush. Make sure you sleep well before the exam. It's a long one, so you want to make sure that your body is comfortable and your environment is prepared for that exam. But you've already done all the work up until now. So well done, and to those of us that are taking the exam very soon. Um, I want this session to be very interactive. I want us to ask questions in the chat, and then we'll have spots in between to answer questions, especially for those of us who have already been familiar with the material. We've already covered what it is that we want to learn. We've covered maybe we've read the PMBOK guide, maybe we've taken maybe 16 practice exams, and we are ready to go. Thank you so much, Nelson. I think you did a fantastic job introducing me. I am the founder and managing partner of Zeno Consulting, and I've been training project management for a very short while. And I think I've learned on the job as a project manager and as a trainer for project management. I've learned in the classroom rather more than I've learned on the job, because I'm learning from other project managers around the world. It's an honor to be with all of us today. Okay, please let me know that we can see my screen, please. Any emojis or chats? Yes, thank you very much, Nicola.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So if you're writing, I'll answer that one question now. If you're writing in February, definitely the 7th edition is still the guide to go to. And that is still where the ECO is based off on. The exam content outline is based on. But there'll be a new exam content outline coming out by June, July. So that's when, those people can begin to prepare for the new exams. So let's look at, for those of us on the call that might not have, gotten a full grasp of what it is that we want to achieve, let's, give them a recap. So forgive us and forgive them for this recap. So we all know that the PMP is the gold standard for project management around the world. There are several project management certifications. I have a few, but PMP is still my favorite. PMP is still my favorite, and it is the one that is more recognized all over the world. As you can see from the different countries that are in attendance today, there are several persons in different locations that have interest in the project management professional exam by PMI. And basically what this exam tells, employers, or what it tells other professionals, is that this person has the skills to lead projects. Now, don't worry about the methodology, if it's going to be waterfall, if it's going to be agile. There are several methodologies, as you have learned, or as you'll be learning in your study preparing for PMP, that there are several methodologies, but we are not focusing on particular methodology. We're focusing on the skills and the principles that we need to imbibe as project managers that help us to achieve, professional looking and professional outcomes from our projects. So what are the 3 things that this exam is checking or testing us on? And someone had asked, I think one of my colleagues today, what's the difference between the CAPM and the PMP? And I thought it was quite, it was important for me to also mention it here, that the exam content outline might be different for the CAPM, but the source material is the same. And so the knowledge that you gain if you're preparing for the CAPM is quite the same. It's the same amount of knowledge, but the PMP tests your application of that knowledge. So what that means is that it wants to make sure that when you are in a situation that requires you to act as a project manager, you can apply those principles that you have learned from all of your studies, all of those skills. You can apply those skills in the way that you manage your projects. So the 3 things that we said we're mentioning, or we're watching on the 3 domains, are people, process, and business environment. Today's webinar is going to be focused more on the people domain, basically thinking about how we interact with people. I'll ask a simple question, and I'll like an answer in the comments, or someone can unmute themselves and just answer. So if you saw in your exam question, the project manager spends dash percent. Oh, no, let's take it this way. The project manager spends 80% of their time on what activity? The project manager spends 80% of their time on what activity? I mean, most of the questions are quite, they're not as straightforward and simple as that, but let's use that as a sample question. Anybody? Communication. Anybody else with a different answer? People, okay. Communication, people. Beautiful. Thank you very much. I completely agree with all of you. So as you can imagine, the answer, if you do see such a question, the answer is most likely communication. And this has to do with managing people. Who are the kind of people that you'll be managing on your project? You're going to be managing your team members, your stakeholders, your vendors. So we're going to talk about stakeholders in a bit. I will look at the different kinds of stakeholders that you can, imagine and you can have. And you can, by the time you look at it, you realize that all of the reports you're writing, all of the meetings you're having, all of the sending of, dashboards and, creating summaries of what's happening, progress status, all of those things are communication. You're making sure that people that need information are getting the information that they need, and which is why we're going to spend some time talking about how we manage our relationship with people and how we talk to the people. So the other process domains, the other domains, process domain and the business environment domain. Forgive these percentages. I think I got them from the new, I think I got them from the new, the PMBOK 8. So the business, for now, business environment is less than this, is less than 26%. But these are still the 3 performance domains. If you are not already convinced, of which most of us here that have indicated have already set exam dates, so definitely you are convinced, you have invested time and money into this certification. So I already know that you're going to take this course. So let me tell you why you have made this investment. Let me assure you that you've made a worthwhile investment. You have gotten the skills that it takes to manage projects in any environment. And I have some testimonies from past students that say that I know that sometimes it's a lot of, is a lot of theory and not a lot of practical, but I was able to use this knowledge in my office, and they were able to give these instances of where they're able to use the knowledge that they gained from preparing for this exam to manage practical scenarios, projects in their work environment, and even in their personal lives, personal projects, home construction projects. You're able to apply the skills and the techniques that you learn as you're developing yourself and learning this material. Then there's also that bridge, especially for some persons who have been probably managing projects in a different area, and now they're learning to manage projects in a more corporate environment. There's a way to, this certification helps you to bridge that gap. It also helps you to manage your teams better. So you have people who are in different fields. They're not project managers per se, but they're managing projects in human resources, in finance, in construction, different fields or different areas that they have their focus, but they're not particularly calling themselves project managers, but they've taken this certification and they've been able to improve their performance within those teams. And then, of course, you have an accumulation of the language. You're able to now speak, in the project management language. Any questions at this point? Any questions at this point? All right. Okay, so you might have seen different definitions of project management. I don't know if someone wants to share with us one of their favorite definitions of project management. Anybody? I mean, at this point, you already know what project management is. So how do you define it to someone who is not a project manager? Okay, I'm waiting. Maybe we're typing. I'm waiting for some. So I'm going to mention the one that is on the screen here. And it talks about project management being an art and a science. And we say it's an art because when you deal with people, you realize that there is a certain finesse. Thank you. Lots of patience. I like that one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your comments and your questions. We're moving on. Don't worry, we're not going to use this whole session to do intro. We're just having a little, starter. So it's an art. Project management is an art because there's a lot of tact and finesse in dealing with people, in managing people. And it is also a science because we need to apply some techniques and some technical tools in following the systematic process. So it will differ from person to person. The way that I would manage a home renovation project will be different from the way that you would manage a home renovation project. Even if we use the same construction team, we use the same materials, our houses are the same layout, those projects we manage differently just because the project manager is different. And so projects are unique. So we all know why project management is needed for organizations, because most of the questions that we answer in the exam hall are in the organizational context. So even though you know that, okay, I planned my birthday bash, last week, and that was a big project. And you saw the value of using project management to handle such an event. But in the context of the exam, with most of the questions are tailored in a corporate environment. So we want to, take notice of that. So we did mention that, this webinar is going to be focused on the people domain, and some of the topics that we handle when we come across, especially in the exam, is dealing with conflicts, right? So how do we deal with, how do we deal with conflict in the workplace? How do we deal with conflict within our team? First of all, we need to understand where conflict is coming from. So when we understand where conflict is coming from, we are better able to respond to the conflict. We're better able to see how to what's the next step to take to deal with that conflict in a more suitable way. Okay, now the first thing to know about conflict is that it's expected. We cannot have a project and not have conflicts. In fact, if people are doing their very best to achieve the goals and the objectives of that project, by virtue of the different specializations of your team members, the different perspectives of your team members, everyone would have a different way that they might see something, and they might be able to, they want to do their best. Everybody's here to achieve the goals and objectives of this project. But the way that we interpret the action and what is expected might be a little different. And that's why a lot of the job of the project manager is to set the vision, to communicate the vision, to communicate expectations, to re-communicate expectations. So we're always having to make sure that we are all aligned, we are all on the same page, and we're all driving towards the same goals. So how do we manage conflicts on our projects, and where do conflicts come from? Conflicts come from, we already mentioned, having different perspectives. There could also be an ambiguity in the responsibility of your team members. Your team members might feel like they have, they have a different understanding of what their role is on the particular project, and your role as project manager or project supervisor or project coordinator, because of course there are several names that there are several titles that you can have within your project that are still project managers. So this could cause conflict. We could have a situation where, we are all trying to vie for the same material. So there are different projects, there are different teams working on one project, and we all need, resource. The resource could be as simple as a meeting room. We are 5 teams and 2 teams have booked the same meeting room at the same time, and they are vying for it. It could be as simple as that. It could be as annoying as you have communicated something and what is being executed is completely different. I'm sure some of us have those kind of experiences where you have given some description and you've taken your time to explain what should be done on a particular project and what actions and what tasks your team members should take. And when you see the execution, you are appalled. And that's one of the reasons why we cry for early feedback, early and often feedback, so that we have shorter feedback loops and they don't go too far in the wrong direction before there is some remedy to the problem. Okay. Now, regardless of where the conflict is coming from, we want to manage conflict. Remember that is your responsibility as the project manager. So if you see this in the exam, person John and Peter are in an argument. They had this and they did this and they did that. What are you going to do as the project manager? Most of the time, you want to make sure that both parties are heard. However, your question might be phrased in a way that says that you have already heard the parties out. So you want to look at the steps. And if you go to your exam content outline, I hope we all have, do we all have that? If you haven't downloaded it already, you can download it. Let me just type it in here for you. You can download it directly from pmi.org to get your exam content outline. So if you look at the exam content outline, when you see the tasks, they're asking for, managing conflicts. You see several activities that you can do. So for example, if you've already asked, you've already asked the people how, what information or what went wrong. You've already tried to understand the scenario. Then there's no need to do that again. And if you have already done that, or you've already given an advice or given an instruction, then your next step would be to implement, to make sure that that instruction was implemented. So you want to follow, apart from just thinking about what's the right thing to do, you also want to think about what's the next thing to do. So it's not just what's the best thing or what's the right thing, but also what is the next thing. If I have already done this, so where am I in this stage? So when you have these situational questions in the exam, you always want to think of, okay, at what point is the project manager in? What should he do next is always the answer. Don't think only about what's the best thing or what's the final outcome of this scenario. Okay. Then there are some interpersonal skills that we learn, leadership skills, some management skills that we apply as we, as we want to handle conflicts. So that if it was an agile project, so if the question goes, your agile team is having this issue, automatically you know that your job there as an agile project manager is not to step in and solve all the problems for your team. Your job is most likely to ensure that the team understands, their role. They are empowered to resolve conflict themselves. So notice that difference if you have such questions, if it's an agile team or they make mention of you are the Scrum Master or you are the agile project manager, you notice that that question has a bit of agile in it. You know that such teams, the teams are supposed to be self-managing. So self-managing teams are not asking, they're not they don't need you as project manager to step in and resolve the conflict for them. Okay, but as a project manager, in any case, you are to help to remove blockers or impediments or escalate issues. So what are the things that we want to be mindful of? We want to make sure that, we keep our communication open and respectful. So I mentioned that we allow both parties to state their case. And we want to focus on the issue, not the person. So even if someone has done something before in the past that is really upsetting, we don't want to use that previous situation to judge this present situation. We want to focus on the situation at hand and not the people involved. We also want to handle we want to search for alternatives together. We want to make sure that we all have a chance to look for the solution together. So in conflict resolution, there are some techniques that we apply to ensure that the team works together to find the solution. We work together to find. So we have now the common enemy. The problem is the source of the conflict is our common enemy, and we are banding together. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. We are banding together to solve that problem together. I want to stay focused on the present issues and not the past issues. Any questions at this point? Any questions at this point? All right. Okay.
Just wanted to say that because everyone is muted, if you would like to ask a question directly, just raise your hand. I will unmute you. Otherwise, at the end of the session, we'll unmute everyone and you'll be able to ask as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this LEA's levels of conflict. So we want to look at, where is the conflict? How far has it gone? So according to this model, by this LEA's levels of conflict model, we see that conflict is intensifying from, is this a problem that is to solve, where, the focus is still on the issue, or is this, an intractable situation, something that has become personal or ideological, and you know that, okay, the matter has gotten, it's now a personal fight. This thing has gotten out of hand. So we want to be able to interpret how far the conflict is escalating, and to make sure that we focus on the actual project, and we're not focusing on, we don't let it escalate to that level, right? We want to still let it be on the level where people are able to see common ways of how we can, solve this problem, even though we are still in disagreement, or we still have some disagreement, or we have some context. All right. Okay, so let's talk about some conflict management techniques, or some conflict resolution techniques. So which one do we choose? Now, I want to say that withdrawing or avoiding sounds as if we should never apply that technique or that approach. But in some cases, that might be the very best thing to do at that time. And I will explain. Um, Sometimes the conversation or the conflict has become so escalated or so heated that people are refusing to see reason. As we saw in this diagram, it has become an intractable situation. People are at, loggerheads. In such a situation, that's not the time to start trying to find reason with people. They are no longer open to reason. In that kind of situation where they've gotten into, maybe they are throwing blows. I don't know if anybody has experience of an argument in your team getting to the point where people are throwing blows or they are accusing some people of witchcraft, or they are, insulting people's ancestral homes. I have not personally experienced such a heated kind of conflict within any of my teams, but if ever there is such a heated conversation or discussion, you need people to calm down first. You need people to cool down first before we begin to try and say, let's accommodate or let's problem solve, let's compromise. No, at this point, just, let's withdraw, let's, go away from the cause of this problem. So withdraw, this is a prime scenario for withdrawing or avoiding. We want people to calm down. Yes, it might seem as if there's no winner. It's a lose-lose situation, a lose-lose scenario. But it is a way for us to calm down when things have gotten too heated. It might be that after things have calmed down, we might be able to come back to any of these other approaches. So let's go to the other approaches that we can talk about. So there are two of them that go hand in hand. Excuse me. One is the forcing or directing, and then the other one is smoothing or accommodating. Why did I say they go hand in hand? It's because two parties, if one is forcing, that means the other is accommodating. And you would have these approaches or these conflict resolution methods used when the two parties have an imbalance in their power level. So, for example, someone is the project sponsor is saying, do it this way. It must be done this way, right? Or maybe one party has a legal authority over the other party. So now you think about, in cases of actual people, government institutions or representatives of the authority that are saying, oh, you must do something a certain way, even when you have a different opinion of what should be the best way to handle such a situation. Whoever is on the lower part of this power dynamic will now have to smooth or accommodate, because you want to either maintain a relationship, or because you have an obligation to obey this other party. So the dynamics might be between an employer and an employee, or a senior official and a junior official, or someone that has some legal backing or authority and someone who is under such a law. Some other examples of this forcing and accommodating, or forcing and smoothing, could it really be when you are trying to curry favor with maybe a new vendor is trying to curry favor with you, and they're trying to get into your good books and say, let's do some business together. You're saying, oh, I want it at this rate, I want it to be discounted at this rate. Yes, that is a little bit of a conflict that typically maybe you guys would have compromised if the scales were balanced. If the power dynamics were equal, you would have compromised. But now, because one person has more power than the other, that party is forcing, whereas the other party is smoothing and accommodating. This is a sample question. This is one of the questions that could come out in the exam that have to deal with conflict management. They could ask, what method of conflict resolution would you take in this particular scenario? So they'll paint this scenario for you. So we've mentioned withdrawing, we've mentioned forcing, we've mentioned accommodating, and these are different names that you could call them. So both of them are correct where you have them in the slashes there. The one that we are advocating the most for, even though each of these approaches have their different use cases, the one we would advocate the most for, of course, is collaborating or problem solving. Now, for this to work, we have so sorry, the fourth and the accommodating, I didn't mention that it comes out in a lose-win or win-lose outcome. So we said withdrawing and avoiding has a loss-loss outcome, or a lose-lose outcome. Forcing or directing, whoever is forcing has the win outcome, the other party has the lose outcome. Smoothing and accommodating, you lose, the other person wins. That's, you know, the dynamics of that. So with collaborating and problem solving, we actually get a win-win outcome. And this is why this is the one that we advocate for the most. So with collaborating and problem solving, we want to look at multiple ways to resolve the problem. So we are confronting the problem itself. We are collaborating and confronting the problem itself. We want to see things from different perspectives. We want to be able to say, okay, what if we do it this way? What if we do it this way? So for us to even have such a conversation with our teammates or whoever we are on the other side of the negotiating table, because this also applies to negotiation as it applies to conflict resolution. We must come to that table with a certain respect for the other team or the other party. We must believe that those people are reasoning people, that this person is going to be, you know, they're going to be thinking well. They are upright people, that they have sense. They are not stupid. If we are already coming to the table thinking that the other party, they don't have sense at all, they are stupid, we are not going to come to a collaborative or a problem solving resolution. We are most likely probably going to come to a compromise or would result to forcing and smoothing. But if we are collaborating, that means both parties are trying to come to a consensus. They are trying to see have an open dialogue and see things from different perspectives. And then the last one is compromise or reconcile. Now, compromise might seem like a nice word to have, but unfortunately, compromise actually results in a lose-lose situation because we've both lost something. I don't know if we are all familiar with this story. There is, I didn't know that are we still having that problem of buffering? Let me turn off the camera if that's gonna help. Okay, sorry, I missed some of the questions. Okay. So I'm gonna take some questions. Even if we feel the person is wrong, should we address the problem, even if they're wrong from the start? Thank you, Aaron, for that question. There's another question. When is it appropriate to escalate anything to the sponsor? Okay. When are we going to escalate to the sponsor? Let me answer the last question first. If we feel that the person is wrong, how do we address the problem? So remember, we have different approaches now. And if we are focusing on the person, right, and not the situation or the problem at hand, we would realize that we will not be able to come to a problem solve resolution. A problem solve resolution is coming from a place of we both want to find a favorable outcome. So we're not focused on my way must be hard. We are rather focused on, okay, let's have an open dialogue. Let's discuss. So if we've already made a conclusion in our mind that this person is wrong, maybe we have a legal backing, then it is well within our rights. It's well within our right to force or direct. Do we understand that, please? That if you feel that the person is wrong from the start, this is to Aaron Chima. If you feel the person is wrong from the start and you have legal backing for that, or you have, an authority from, human resources point of view, a company point of view, maybe it's in our company handbook that you must do something a certain way, then you are well within your right to use this method of forcing and directing, and the other party has to smooth or accommodate just because you have the upper hand. However, if there's no backing for you, you don't have any legal backing, you are not superior to this person, you don't have any, edge over this other person, then you might have to reconsider your collaborating or problem solving. Thank you for all the people that are answering questions for us in the group, in the chat. So we have, when is it appropriate to escalate anything to the sponsor? Someone mentioned that when we want to request for more budgets, we 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 get the sponsor. Let me answer that question, please. So your the project manager is the person that has been authorized by a document called the project charter. This document authorizes the project manager to manage the resources and the people on these projects within certain outlines. So if it's an agile project, it might be between a time and it might be within the limits of the time and the amount or the cost, but not the scope, right? So that's your limit as a project manager. In predictive projects where they've already outlined the entire scope and there is a budget, there is a cost, there's a schedule, a project schedule. No, I've not moved the slide, Serge. I'm still discussing conflict management approaches, and I'm still discussing some of the questions that are being asked in the chat, please. So we are still in the question of when should we escalate to the sponsor? I would like us, or even if you're not the one that answered this question, I would like us to listen to this answer, please. So what I'm explaining is that the project manager is authorized to solve all the problems within the scope, within the cost, within the budget. And within the scope, within the cost, within the timeline. Now, what we call those limits, right, is our baseline. So our baseline is the limitation that the project manager has to work with. So for example, if we had a 100-day project, on your project schedule, it was 100 days, but you have a float of additional 20 days. And that 120 days now becomes your schedule baseline. Do we understand this? So whatever contingencies that you have in your project, whether it's in time, in money, in resources, those contingencies are part of the project manager's wherewithal to be able to make decisions. So it is when the problem or the issue has gone beyond our project scope baseline or our project cost baseline or our project schedule baseline that the project manager can escalate, or is about to go beyond the baseline, the project manager can escalate beyond that. But if it's a situation of, we had 100,000 scheduled to, we needed 100,000 to achieve this particular item on our board. And we have contingency, we have some reserve of about 20,000 or about 15,000. And what we had planned was 100,000, but what we are now seeing is 105,000. Our contingency can cover it, and the project manager can give approval for such extra monies to be, released, as long as it is within those baselines, within the contingencies. So we don't want to escalate to the project sponsor if it is within the control of the project manager. So that's what we're talking about there. Okay. I'm answering another question, please. Please be patient with us as we answer some questions. How do you know in the exam if the question is an agile project and is not a predictable one where there is a functional manager? Thank you very much for that question, Megan. There are some words that we want to be careful of, and we don't want to be in a hurry to read through our questions because scenario-based questions will have some pointers. If they do not mention anything about an agile project manager, a scrum master, and a project coach or agile coach, we want to assume that our project is a predictive project. Okay, so you want to look out for some words that would highlight that this project they are talking about is an agile project. So they might talk about the team, or your agile team, or your self-managed team, or your self-regulated team, or your Scrum team. So maybe they've classified the team. That makes you understand that was an agile team. Or they've mentioned the method. Oh, you are using such Kanban method. You are using extreme programming, right? Or you have, there are specific words that you would find that that these words are only for agile methodologies or agile teams and agile scenarios. Otherwise, assume that that question is placed in a predictive environment. All right. There's a question I didn't answer earlier. Deborah, you asked if the backing is from a project document, would you consider that an authority to operate within? Yes, that is an authority. So you can force or direct while the other party has to smooth or accommodate because you have an authority. Okay. So those keywords we've mentioned. So we said the Scrum Master, the coach, the agile project manager, agile team, self-managing team, your extreme programming. Exactly. If you use iterations, exactly. Definition of done. Thank you very much. So all those words, do you know that those words are unique to an agile environment? You will not find them in a predictive environment. Thank you very much for your questions. We're moving on now. So we've talked about product owner. Thank you so much. That's a very good word. Sprint, iteration. Lovely. Thank you, everybody, for helping us with those. So we've talked a lot about conflict resolution, and I believe even if it's 2 questions that come out with conflict resolution, we would ace those ones very well. Let's talk a little bit now about leading a team, because you know that your team management is not just about managing conflicts. It's also about making sure your team knows what to expect and making sure that they have the vision and the mission, which is the next thing we're discussing. Give me a second. Let me drink some water. And I'm also going to be reading any questions. All right. Thank you for the water break. Okay. I had mentioned that if you are a project manager, one of the things that if you do it right, if you're able to get it right, you would have less frustrations with your project team because it will feel like we are all working together as one unit. Okay? So we want to be able to set a clear vision and mission. Now, maybe you are not the initiator of the project as a project manager. Maybe you have been, given this responsibility and either another team or another project manager had handled it before. Sorry. Either another project manager had handled it before or the project the clients that you're working with is the one that has given you this assignment, and they have shared with you their business case, their project charter, the things that they want to achieve with this project. So what I'm saying is that even if it has already been assigned to us that, oh, this is your mission and vision for the project, it is still your responsibility as the project manager to be able to either rewrite or communicate this vision and mission in a way that explains what we are trying to achieve, that the team members can understand. Now, let's talk a little bit about your stakeholders. And this is something I did I have it in my slide? Let me check. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about your stakeholders in a bit. But the point is, whoever is going to be dealing with you in your project, they must know what we are trying to achieve. They must have a clear idea of our vision. It will be very bad if you ask somebody on your team that, what task are we trying to achieve? What are you doing? What is your work? You call one of your colleagues and you say, okay, oh, what are you working on? Oh, well done. Okay, oh, so what is that? How does that tie into our vision? And they don't know. Okay, how does that help us achieve our overarching goal? And they don't know how their work connects to the vision of this project or the mission of this project. So if it takes some time, but it's a price we have to pay to make sure that we have a good foundation for our team. They know what is the outcome that we are trying to achieve. They're able to now, instead of it now being a task driven, they are driven by, oh, let me just check this to-do list. They know what we are trying to achieve, and because of that, they buy in to the goal. They are motivated to achieve this goal with you. And this is when we have a team development, the team needs to understand why they are doing the work that they are doing. So this is the exercise that you do. You want them to know what makes the project work to be successful. How will we know that we have achieved a successful outcome? How will we know if we are drifting away from the vision? So those things must be spelled out for us. Okay, what are some of the things that we want to ensure in our creating um a good or leading and managing our team? Apart from creating our vision and mission, setting that clear mission, I said that was very important, and it's not a one and done task. It's something that we might need to come back to time and again. Vivienne, oh, I wish I could speak French now, so that we can make sure that we include the French Francophone members. But yes, so we want to support diversity, we want to support inclusion. We want to make sure that we understand the strengths of our team members. And we have already agreed that the work that we are doing as project managers is very people-centric. We need to be we need to be, if you think back at the work that you've done in the past year, in your roles across wherever or whatever organization you've been playing, you've realized that you've coached people, you've led people, you've acted as a a motivator, you've acted as a guide, you've acted as a teacher in some respects, you've had to even do some counseling for some of your team members. I know I'm speaking to quite a number of you. If you really look at all the work that your work has been involving, and so you know that if you're doing this intentionally, that part of your work as a project manager is to understand the different ways that your team functions, so that you know how best to motivate them, so that you know how best to even give them more authority or give them responsibility on the team, because you know this person can manage this better than this other person, and this person would be good to work with this other person. So it helps us to understand ourselves better and the team. And then we want to make sure that we are deliberately coming up with team agreements that makes everyone feel safe, makes everybody feel included, and people can speak up, people can communicate with each other on the team. They're not feeling withdrawn on your team. A concept that is very common in especially in agile, but also in all manner of project management, whatever you want to call yourself, as a project leader, a project coach, an agile coach, we all are servant leaders, because we are focusing on the needs and development of the project team members. I have a confession. In my very early years of teaching PMP, um, I started teaching PMP the year after I took the exam. And I remember asking a question and I was laughing to myself. I said, what's my business if you are growing? I feel silly now saying it. I said, what's my business as a project team lead if you are growing? If you don't want to grow, that's your business. So that was very uninformed of myself. I have since then learned that it is also in my best interest as a project leader that the people who work with me and the project team members, they also are making developments, and they are having their own personal development needs addressed by this project. This project is making them a better person, either for their families or for their personal growth, or they have some ambition that they are trying to do in their career, and this job and this project is helping to improve and helping to make those dreams come true. It is actually very important. So we want to be able to understand that our team members, are they growing as individuals? Can they take decisions on their own? Are they more likely to become servant leaders? I can imagine, and if you can recount the amount of pride you have when you notice some of your team members that might have started with you a little unsure, a little less confident, and through your coaching and some of the kind words, and just, they're the ones doing the work, but you have guided them a little bit, and you see them grow and improve, and you see them being able to guide other people. Aren't you filled with such a sense of pride? We are saying that this is something that should be intentional. It shouldn't be, just a byproduct. We should intentionally cultivate this servant leadership. We want to be able to help our team members to remove obstacles where they find them. We want to be able to make sure that our team members, they are encouraged, they are developed. If they have um, personal development needs or career development needs, we're able to give them some guidance or some answers to that, or direct them to where they can find such answers. And this helps the team to be more self-organized. This helps the team to be more driven and motivated to achieve our project objectives. So you would realize that instead of directing people and telling people what to do and how to do it, you are now guiding a team of experts who want to succeed and who are doing their best in whatever field that they are to make the work progress. Okay, so now is in as much as we want everybody to be coached, and in fact, in my own team meeting this morning, I was I was thinking about it, that it's not everybody that is going to be able to, we can use situational leadership model for. It is our wish that everybody on our team will be self-managed. Unfortunately, it's not all teams and not everybody in all teams that we can use that leadership style for. So we must assess the maturity and the experience of individual team members so that we can tailor the leadership style to be appropriate for those specific people. So you have people that are senior, that have been managing similar projects before, and your organization governance allows for such independence of project management or independence of thought, especially when you have teams that are working remotely. You cannot be policing and supervising every little detail that each of your team member is making. So if you have people in those environments where they have some sense of maturity and experience, you want to have a more, consultative style of management. Oh, how do you want to approach this? Okay, how are you going about it? That's good. Okay, I'm checking on you a bit later. Rather than saying, oh, do it like this, do it like that, and make sure it is like this, right? But there are still some persons, either because they have little experience or they have little sense of ownership in terms of maturity, and they can grow to a different level. But for the stage where they are at, we must manage them with that, either direct or autocratic leadership style, because that's the leadership style that fits, the purpose, or fits that category of our team. I'm going to give us a little bit of time again to see some questions. My voice is breaking. Sorry about that. Is it still happening? I've put off my camera so we can hear me better. Someone said, when is it appropriate to reassign someone else's work to another team member? My answer for this, and somebody else can answer us on the chat, please. Serge, I'm answering this question. I'm answering from my point of view as a leader. This answer is not a PMI approved answer, so please don't use it as exam guidance. But okay, no, it's Tembile that asks, when is it appropriate to reassign someone else's work to another team member? I do it quite often. Why? Why do I do it? I do it for urgent work that another team member might be more experienced to be able to handle it. So not necessarily because something is failing on somebody's desk that I move it to another team member. We also need to be mindful of the fact that we are making sure we want people to grow and develop on the job. We want people to mature and get better. So if we just take work from people when it gets difficult, every time it gets difficult, we demotivate them. They are not going to be interested in, doing the work. But we can assign. So one of the ways that I do it is I ask them to pair up with somebody else that is more experienced in that particular assignment, and say, okay, please, follow this person's guidance on this. It is still your task, it's still your responsibility, but let them guide you and let them help you. You can reassign explicitly when the ball has been dropped, and this is a very sensitive matter that needs to be taken up and restored. In some cases where the bug has been dropped, but it is not too sensitive, the person can be given another chance to fix the wrong that they made. They can be given a chance to right the wrong. And this is again my own personal leadership experience, that they get a bit more confident with that experience of having solved a problem that they caused by themselves. So they are the ones that brought the problem, but they were able to fix it. It really helps with their esteem, and it helps with the way that they carry out other projects in the future. Yeah. Okay. I agree that you would pair people together. Okay, we're still taking questions if there's any other question. So we've talked about conflict resolution. We've talked about leadership styles. Let's talk a little bit about influencing, motivating, inspiring team members. As a project manager, I don't know if you knew before now that you are now a motivator. You aspire to perspire, to inspire and motivate. You have to figure out what are the things that make my team members work well. What are the things that make them move forward? And you want to use those things to inspire the team. We have three main things here on the board. We have inspiring through vision. We had mentioned that setting the vision is very critical. It's very critical in the work. And so that first work that we did in establishing the mission and the vision of your project will help to make the team to know that this is what we are trying to achieve at the end of the day. For my team, my team is very small. So if I mention the goal now, the goal might seem like it's very, very small, but we gave ourselves a revenue target this year of 2 billion naira. I said I'm in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Nigerian. So we gave our team a revenue target of 2 billion naira, which again, like I said, for large organizations, it might be very small, but that's the goal that we are working towards. And everyone has to tie in, their project work and all of their deliverables to how does this help towards our North Star? How does this help us to get to that vision? So it helps to maintain alignment. We also want to motivate the individual team members and our stakeholders. We'll talk about stakeholders in the next slide. So you understand what are the things that drive your team. There are some people that, yes, everybody likes money. Everybody loves money. So there are some people that will say, money is my motivator, just give me more money. But there is an extent to which extrinsic motivators like salary and bonuses can go. There are some other recognition and rewards that people esteem at different levels of their personal growth, that they want more recognition than they want money, or they want more autonomy. They want to be given freedom to do the work the way they choose, rather than be told what to do and how to do it. So if you give them that opportunity, they are more motivated than if you are giving them a little bit extra money. I'm not saying money is not going to motivate people, but money has the limits. So we want to understand the different drivers of motivation within your team. We also want to make sure that we use emotional intelligence. We want to have engagement with our team, because it's not just enough to say, oh, I've been observing you. We can also ask questions. We can also discuss with our team members and figure out some of the ways that they are better motivated. Any questions at this point? So, of course, there are some motivational theories. If you've read from the PMBOK guide, there are motivational theories that might come up in the exam hall, and we want to know that it's based on the people that we are, the characteristics and motivational drivers for each person that would now guide how we motivate them. Let's talk a little bit about our different kinds of stakeholders. So, as we know, because we've talked about we've talked about stakeholders. We've talked about only the team as part of our stakeholders, but stakeholders are not just our team. Stakeholders could be an individual, a group, or organization that can be affected by, or they perceive themselves to be affected by the project activities or results. What does that mean? It's not just the individuals and groups that we automatically write down in our stakeholder list that we are thinking, oh, these are the people that directly are impacted by this project. Even those who think that this project, when it happens, when these project objectives are achieved, it will affect me. Those people are also stakeholders. We've talked about the project team as a crucial part of this group of stakeholders, but there are also other members of our stakeholder groups that we need to understand their influence on the projects. That is to say, we're not giving people more information than is necessary to have. We're not giving them more information than is necessary to have. We're not saying, oh, you have this, so for example, you're building a school. You're building a school in a community, and you got your licenses from the State Education Board, some federal boards, some licenses. When you get the license and you get the approval, you giving them all the information that they need. They've given you your license to go ahead. You don't have to go and start telling them, okay, we have now erected the building, we are about putting in the roof. You're not giving them that level of information anymore. They no longer need that information. So you have to assess the different categories of your stakeholders and your team members to know what is their influence on the project and what level of information do we need to give them. So looking at their power, their proximity to the project, we're understanding where the project managers are, where the stakeholders are, can impact and influence the project. I had an example in a class that someone said there was a stakeholder that was not properly assessed, that was not available at the time that some decisions were made. And because of that, when the stakeholder came back and the stakeholder was not in agreement with the project, the stakeholder requested that that project be pulled down. It was a government institution, so you can imagine the bureaucracy in such environments. But the point of it is, in as much as not all your stakeholders will be 100% behind you in how you want to go about this project, or they are not in support of your project's activities, you must be careful to make sure that the ones that are not in support, they are not the ones that can negatively impact the project. And those who are, they can negatively impact the project, you want to make sure you get their buy-in. You want to make sure as much as possible you are able to understand their influences and their biases and to build a proper relationship with those stakeholders. Okay, so there are several methods that you might be using to build and maintain your influence as a project manager, managing your stakeholders, whether it's within your team or external to your team. How do you manage those stakeholders, whether they are your teammates, they are downward, or the senior management, maybe your PMO, your steering committees, your change management boards, your project sponsor. You want to be able to manage all your stakeholders, according to their powers and their influence. All right, any questions so far? Okay. We can ask questions that particularly supports our exam preparation. Let me see if we have anyone. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Those are good ideas for motivating our team. Award presentation, feedback, appraisal. Those are great ones. Any questions so far? We don't want to take up all the time in just talking. The power matrix. Do I have it here? Let me see if I have a slide for it. Excusez-moi. Okay, I don't have a slide for it right here, but let me pull up something I can use. The direction of influence relative to the project. Okay, and mock test. Okay, do we all have the PMI study hall? I believe that this is a very great tool for practicing specific questions. Practicing specific questions that are related to, different areas of our study. And it's very beneficial for us to, manage, like to test our knowledge. So it's not just enough for us to practice the exam, to read the PMBOK guide, watch our attend the classes or watch videos and recordings. It's also very good for us to practice exam questions. Okay. To get access to study hall, you'd have to go through pmi.org. I think there's a discount for people who have membership, and of course, if you've already set your exam, I'm thinking that you most likely already have the PMI membership. There are also past questions on other sources. There are free past questions. There are even some on YouTube. I like YouTube, but if you're looking for a very paced study, something that you can check back to see, oh, why did I get this wrong, and what should I have done differently? Which part of the study should I go back to read more on, rather than just reading more on everything? Oh, I'm failing these particular type of questions. I'm failing questions that have to do with people management. I'm failing questions that have to do with process. I'm failing questions that have to do with team management. Let me go back and see what the book says about it, rather than trying to prepare for everything, but you can now do topic by topic in study hall. Okay. Yes, I do advise more practice than reading, especially if you've already done the 35-hour PDU class. That is one of the requirements for getting getting the exam voucher or getting registered for the exam. Then definitely you've learned the basics. If you've done the 35-hour PDU class, you've learned the basics. What will now improve your study would now be taking those practice exams and going back to read on those topics that you are failing, instead of trying to read everything afresh again. So the ones that you need to focus more on. Okay, so one of the questions there was talking about the power and the interest matrix for power and influence matrix for PMI. Let me see if I can share with you a cool, what do they call this thing again? A picture from the internet, just so we can have that as a source. Copy image. Give me a sec. To do. Yes, PMI Infinity is also good. You can ask it questions. So sorry for the low quality of the picture. I hope it comes in. So somebody was asking about the power matrix. And basically you want to, so if you've seen that image, let's explain it a little bit more. you have some stakeholders that they have high interest in the project and they have high influence in the project. Those kind of people who have both high influence and high interest, you want to collaborate with them. Influence in the project means that they can do something that can change the outcome of your project. They can, because maybe they are a senior official, or they are a government official, or they have a high stake in that project. They have an influence on the project. Now, influence is very different from interest. Somebody can have low interests, sorry, low influence. That is to say, they're interested, but they can't do nothing. They are just interested, but they can't do nothing. So think about if you are building, a public a domain that is something that's going to be put in the public domain. There are people who are waiting for this thing to come out. They might be the end user at the end of the day, but for the purpose of that development stage, their opinion is not yet taken into account, right? They can have high interests, but their influence on the project and how we manage the project is low. So we keep them informed. People who have low influence and low interest, we just monitor them. So maybe it might be that they had high influence before, but now we have settled them. They now have low influence. So just keep on monitoring them. Whereas those who have high influence and low interest, they don't really care how you do it, but bring your license, bring your, you've submitted the papers you're supposed to submit, you've gotten the approval you're supposed to get, you have kept them satisfied. You don't have to keep on updating them on the progress of the project. So that's how we use the influence and interest matrix, or power and interest matrix, or power and interest grid for PMI. Okay. I hope I managed to do some justice to that. We're still taking questions. Forgive me if I haven't come to yours yet. Let's see. Hippo stakeholders, highest paid opinions. Okay. How do you manage them? I think this our power grid applies to them. So those people that they just want to be heard, they drive topics away from the project itself. So you can imagine you have to place them on this grid now and figure out, are they, even though they are highest paid, do they have influence over this particular project? So somebody can be a senior member of your organization, but on that project, they have no power. They cannot they cannot do and undo on the project. They cannot change the outcome of the project. So they might actually be low influence on that project, and they have low interest. If already you are seeing that they are moving the conversation away from what the topic is at hand, you know that these people are low interest. James, good luck on your exams. I'm sure you're going to do great. We have a couple of people that mentioned their exams are happening in a few days. We'll give them some advice. So you can also drop your own advice for them. Some of the advice that we've shared earlier is that, especially when you're nearing the day for your exam, you don't want to panic. You don't want to start trying to learn new concepts. Rather, you want to practice the exams and practice what you've already learned. Okay, so take other practice exams, do a full-length practice test. Make sure you have exam conditions and you are comfortable, in your environment, and you're able to take the exam. Even if you're going to a center to take the main exam, when you do your simulation, make sure that your simulation is mirroring exam conditions so that you are prepared mentally and emotionally for that. Then I said the physical preparation before the day, you want to make sure you are eating well, you are sleeping well, you're well hydrated. Let's not go there fasting and hungry, because by the time 3 hours has gone, your eye will be turning you. you will not be able to function as well as you were functioning, in the first hour. You start seeing double. So please, except you have some, spiritual ordinance to do so, my professional advice is please eat well, have a good night's sleep. Don't try to cram anything the night before. Be relaxed. Don't do any practice tests the night before. Just make sure that you take care of yourself well. You're well hydrated. You're eating well. You've slept well. And then any last minutes should be done the day, not the night before. So the day before, you can just do one last practice test and then you rest. Okay. Yes, time management is very important. All right. I'm still looking for questions. Techniques PMs should use to motivate the team to perform and deliver per expectation. So we mentioned that as well. We mentioned some of the techniques that you could use to motivate your team. One of the first things we mentioned was, the vision. And then we want to recognize what are their motivational drivers. And we want to also engage with them so that we know what they want. How do you quickly answer how do you quickly answer a question that is scenario based with matching options? Do you mean like when you have two options that seem similar, that the two options are Wani, Joanna, I think you asked this question. How do you quickly answer a question that is scenario based with matching options? If you mean that the question is the two options are similar, I want you to remember that we said sometimes the answers or the options we could have two correct answers or two answers that are that they are right, but one is the next one to do. So one is, oh, this is stage 2. You have done stage 1. According to the question, you have done stage 1. Or according to this question, you have done stage 2. Now you are seeing in the answer something that you should have done in stage 1, something you should do in stage 3, and something you should do in stage 4. Because the question has placed you in the situation of, I have already done this in stage 2, then your next answer should be that you need to do stage 3 next. I want to show us an example of that. And I want to show us an example of that. And I would have to share my screen. Let me go to PMI. The account I'm using to join this, I don't think I have I don't have an account with it, but let me check. So I had mentioned that we should all download the study, what's it called now? The exam content outline. Let me just Google that and open it for us. Exam content outline. Although I probably have it on my desktop, but instead of looking for it there, let me just go to it. PMP exam content outline.
I've just posted the link on the chat as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Beautiful. Is this the new one? It looks new. Yes, this is the new one. Okay. I actually haven't. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen of the exam content outline so everyone can go through it. So if you are writing the exam in January, so there are some persons that have volunteered to take the new exam this January. So if you're not part of that group, please look at the old exam content outline. So this is the updated one. Okay. And then I wanted to explain something about, task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4. So let's say the question says it's setting a scenario of where we are managing conflicts. Do we understand that? James and Tunde have been, fighting about this and this, and we've been able to figure out that the issue was because the supplier didn't do this, and we've been able to analyze that this and that happened. So from the scenario, you realize that they've already done 1 and they've already done 2. So the next answer should be that we implement an agreed on resolution strategy. Now, they might not, of course, they would not write the answer exactly written in this format. So these are the enablers of the task. The task is you want to manage conflicts, right? We're not going to now say, oh, let us what should the project manager do next? Analyze the context for conflict. No, they might not say that, but they might rephrase it to say, oh, should we check what caused the conflict and do what not? But if you realize that they have already done that in the question, then that step has already been gone. So even if that step is correct, it's a step that has been done. So the next step will now be to implement an agreed on resolution strategy. So they should now agree. They should now agree on something and implement it. So it will now be, we will be going too fast if we've only analyzed the context for conflict and we are now trying to establish an environment that fosters adherence to common ground rules. I don't know if you understand the points that we are making here. Let's see this example for task 4, the enablers for task 4. So you say we want to engage our stakeholders. The first thing we needed to do was to identify the stakeholders. Then we analyze them. Then we analyze and tailor our communication to the stakeholders' needs. The problem will now be if you've seen in your question that we've already analyzed and tailored communication to stakeholder needs, and then you are now still going to pick option 2, analyze stakeholder. That is something that must have already been done for us to have said that we have done these other parts. So you should be looking at what's the very next right thing to do. I hope I haven't confused us any further. Okay, thank you for sharing the old one as well. Okay, I am gonna answer a few more questions. I'm here for you for questions, so let me know. And you can also raise your hand if you want to speak or you want to ask the question directly. So this is the time for questions. Someone has asked for practice exams, and if there is, I honestly recommend all my students that have used the PMI, the study hall, they have gotten very good results. Even before study hall came out, when I was recommending different project management testing groups and different sources, the people that had the best outcomes were those that used PMI's direct practice tests. I think that is worth the investment. Yes, it's a little more money, but you've already invested this amount, you've already invested this much. I think it is worth the investment to get the proper materials. You might still get success if you use other ones. I'm just telling you the one that works the best for my students. All right.
Just want to I just wanted to reiterate what you've said.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't do my exam so long ago. Personally, I did like close to 2 years ago, but I used Study Hall, and I absolutely agree with you. Even in the WhatsApp groups that we have mostly recommended the Study Hall. Study Hall is harder than the main exam. I can tell you that for sure. You would think you have prepared really well, but once you go to Study Hall, you'll get humbled with the questions that are there. But once you get an average of over 65 and above, trust me, you will be able to pass the exam. It's mostly, these are conversations you'll see in the WhatsApp group, and other candidates will be able to share that as well. So it's not the only one, but personally, I recommend it because I personally used it, and even other candidates used it as well. But there are other resources as well. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I also agree. Okay, someone is asking, how do you use the study hall? So let me give you a tip that one of my recent students use. So he would take few minutes during the day to just practice, even if it's 15 minutes, because they have shorter questions. So they have shorter tests, and you can, time yourself. You can do a test mode, you can do just a learning mode. And so you can take short tests, in between your day. But then you can now prepare to take full length tests during maybe the weekend. You have a little more time. You have some time to prepare for your exams and just focus on that a bit more. So take the short test in between, and then take the long ones. Prepare, because you're going to have to look at the questions you failed as well to see why did you fail what you failed, and study those ones. So prepare, allow some time to take the larger questions, and then take the small ones when you have some time. Which other questions? Okay, we've answered the questions for those of us that have exams from now up until May. The exam contents, the old one that we use. How do we read PMP exam questions faster? How do we identify the keywords that we pick the correct answer? Even myself, I wish I had that kind of trick. I think the best thing is practice. The more we practice, the more we are comfortable with the environment of PMI. The more we are, and like Nelson has mentioned, the study hall is much harder than the real exam. And so you might not use that to test, oh, I'm getting 75%, I'm getting 80%. You might do much better in the real exam. So just keep on learning and keep on improving your score the more you're taking exams. It will be very bad if you take a practice test, you get 60% the first time, and the next time you take that same practice test, you're getting 65%. That doesn't show a lot of growth and improvement. That's where we're going to have problem, because that means you're not learning from the ones that you failed in your practice test. So the practice is one of the key things that will really help us to improve. Someone has mentioned that they use YouTube practice questions. That's great. There are a lot of those ones. There are things that you can even listen to on the go, maybe on your commute to work. You can be listening to such questions. You don't have to have the 4 hours allotted before you can say you're taking practice exams. Yes, we said make sure you do the full practice exam at least once or twice before your main exam, but you can be taking shots, 10 minutes or 10 questions or 15 questions, any small break that you have in between your day, rather than waiting for you to have 2 hours in the day for you to study, or 4 hours in the day for you to study. So prepare for that as well. We're still open to questions. Thank you everyone that's sharing resources. I think it's a very great use. I like this question. How do you know when you're ready for the exam? You've been doing full length practice tests and your score keeps changing. I think that 75 to 80% is a very good one. As long as you're not going below 85 or 90% in a retake of a practice test you've done before. That means you're learning. So you're not being exposed to, you're not having the material that you've already covered or you've already seen, you've learned it. So that means you're ready. Do you understand? So if you take a new one, even though you have been getting 190, in the retakes. If you take a brand new one, you might still get maybe 70 or 65, and that might be discouraging. Don't let that discourage you, please. You're not expected to know. Let's imagine now that we have, the questions are 180 questions. Let's imagine that the bank that PMI is getting from at any given time is about 1,000 questions. You're not expected to know the answers to 1,000 questions. Is 180 questions you need to get right for your exams. So think about, all of the questions that you've been having. The more you practice, the better your confidence will be for the exam. When you say, does the exam have a specific time to write? Oh, if you've already set your exam day, then you should know the time for your exam. Because when you choose your date, you also choose the timing. So whether it is going to be at a physical center or it is going to be at your home venue, you're doing a Pearson proctored exam, where you set the time for the exam, and then they monitor your environment to make sure that there's no noise, there's no interruptions, and you can take it in the comfort of your home. So there's no specific time to write the exam, except when you choose the time that you choose. I wrote mine, I think I finished around like 5 a.m. So I started 1 a.m. I wrote it, I didn't want to be disturbed, by people in the house and all of that. So I wrote it in the middle of the night and, got myself acquainted in the quiet environment and all of that. So if you're taking it in a center, I would say, do an early morning exam so that you can be comfortable and you're done. That's your main activity for the day, and you're done with it after your 4 hours is up. Yes, up until June, the exam is still from the 7th edition. Is it better to write the exam at a physical center or an online center? I like this question. I personally will recommend a physical center. Now, I understand that there are some areas where a physical center might not be possible at all, but the confidence and the comfort that you will have in a physical center might be better, and I'll give you reason why. Although I wrote mine as a proctored exam in the house, there are several things that could happen that are out of your control that you would not be able to explain to the examiner. And the examiner is AI, it's robots. So that you will not be speaking plenty English and writing plenty letter, because I've actually had to ask for a receipt for, this was a different examiner. No, it was still Pearson, but it was a different body. It wasn't for PMI, it was for IIBA. So I was doing a proctored exam, and I think I was thinking, and I did something like this, and the system captured that, and they said, that disqualified me from the exam. And if it was a physical center, you can, of course, you're not meant to talk, you're not meant to make any disturbance and all whatnot, but something can just happen. Your internet could go off. They could take the lights. If you're in I'm Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, I never trust NEPA. Somebody can just run past. You've told all your children that, please, mommy is writing the exam, dad is writing the exam, be quiet, everybody leave me. Someone will just knock and open door, different things. So if you know that you cannot control your environment, please, it's safer to just take the exam at the center. You can also take it at a hotel, Again, if it's a hotel that you can be sure that there is going to be, you're not going to be disturbed or nothing is going to happen by that one. Okay. There should be for Abuja, there should be a physical center for Abuja. So when you go to book your exam, you don't have to book it. Like you can check the options. So click on the book your exam. You can check the options. You don't have to, book it that day that you are checking. So just check the options, check the dates that are available for the centers that are closest to you. Put in your address there, and it would show you the centers that are closest to you. Oh, so Michael had a situation where he lost internet. Mm. And if such a thing happens in the physical center, it's just a matter of them coming back to, restart your exam or continue from wherever you stopped. There will be no penalties for such. Yes, there is a change of the PMP exam. For pass mark, I would say let us not focus on pass mark, because like Nelson mentioned, there might be the exam is the exam that you're using to practice might be might be more difficult or more simple than the actual exam. PMI did not disclose a pass mark, but I would usually say between 75% to 80% of your scores, you want to make sure that you are, getting those rates in your practice exams. And then when you retake the exam that you have taken before, you must get closer to 100, because that shows that you have learned the things that you had failed before. Mm-hmm. The study guide. So if you check in the chat, if you were in the chat before, you will see that there's the content outline that Nelson had shared with us. Nelson, maybe you share again in case this person had joined late. Thank you very much. Forgive me if I missed your question. Is there a physical center in Warri? I do not know. I have searched for, I've seen in Port Harcourt, I've seen Lagos, I've seen Abuja, for those in Nigeria, but I don't know if there's a physical center in Warri. And again, if you are not in the physical, if you don't have a physical center in Warri, I would say use a hotel, or a place where that the light is guaranteed, the internet is guaranteed, you're not going to be disturbed, nobody's going to physically come and interrupt your study or your exam. Charlene, I like your question. It's not a stupid question. Do you know what? You can call. So the centers probably have their rules, and I always say that it never hurts to ask. It never hurts to ask. So you can call the center. So even before you select your center, so when you're searching, you see the different options. You see their. Oh, thank you for confirming there's a physical center in Asaba. So you see their number and their address, the address to the center that is closest to your location. So you put in your location in that picker, and then it shows you the different options. So again, the day that you search for your study is not the day that you need to. You must not book that day. You can log out and leave that place. So if you search for it and you give them a call to say, oh, I just want to confirm, I want to book my PMP exam to come and do it at your center, would you allow me to use my mouse? I'm very comfortable with my mouse. I'm sure they would have an answer for you. Like, yes, comfort can make a difference. What else? Can you still change after scheduling for the proctored exam? Yes. So if it is within, and please correct me, my PMI people, if I missed the timing. If it is within, like you still have some weeks to go for your exam, you can change your exam date and type. And there's a cost to change when it's getting to a week before your exam. And when it is 24 hours to your exam, you cannot change anymore. So there's a cost to change. I think there's no cost to change if there's 30 days. Thank you very much. So 30 days, there is free to change. You can change the type and the center for your exam. And then if it is between a week and 24 hours, it's, you have to pay some $70 to, make that change. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so someone is asking if it's new or old. So if you're writing this year up until June, please use the old one. And if you're planning to write after June, you can start preparing with the new one, with the new content outline. We are closing in a few minutes. I'm going to hand over to Nelson in a bit. Yeah, so you can reschedule. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so Susan that you met today is one of the ATPs, and we also organize PMP trainings for those that have not yet gotten their 35 PDUs. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on the socials, ask a question. If you have any other question, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer your questions. If you do know someone that wants to, take the PMP class before they prepare for the exam, then, you can also share this, you can take a screenshot of this and share with them so that they can sign up for the next cohort. Even if they don't want to take the February cohorts, they want to take a much later cohort, they can always sign up for that. I think I'm going to hand over now back to Nelson.
Okay.
In case you have, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan. This was very insightful. It felt like I was doing the classes once again. So thank you so much. And thank you for also answering all the questions on the chat. I know this is just a start. There's lots and lots of questions and things to talk about. Just wanted to say that Susan's details are on the screen right now. If you can go to that slide, just go connect with her on social media, connect with her on LinkedIn, reach out to her. If you want to have one-on-one sessions with her, you can discuss on that and how that's going to be. If you are yet to get your 35, contact us, because I know some of the candidates that are here have been referred, and you're just wondering when you'll be ready to sit for the exam. She should be well and able to be able to get you there. So connect with her, reach out to her, and she'll be able to guide you to get the classes. And even if you just want review sessions where you'll be able to just refresh your mind, I'm pretty sure she'll be able to do this. Also, one-on-one coaching, as well as if you just need help with something, you can reach out to her. Yeah, so one thing I wanted to just add is that to say that all the best to those that are sitting for the PMP exam tomorrow and the day after, and even this week. Wishing you all the best. Remember to answer all your questions. It is important you answer all your questions. There is no negative mark for a wrong answer, so you want to ensure that all the questions are answered to give yourself the best chance at passing. So we will celebrate all of you that pass, as we always do, on the WhatsApp group, and we will see you again on Thursday for another session. We will communicate. We've shared the registration link. We'll share it again, but we'll see you again on Thursday. Have a good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. And thank you so much, Susan. This was very insightful.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.